The great
Boz
has spoken.
Welcome to the Land of Boz with Jeff Bosley.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday, the 15th, the free show of the week of the Land of Boz. And do not be concerned, free does not mean crap quality. So, here is to Monday. Let's get this thing started.
Dude, Mondays is just terrible. I hate Mondays. I really hate Mondays.
Yep, that is right, Mr. Intoxication. Mondays, for some reason, no matter what your job is, inherently down to our DNAs, have a suck factor. However, I argue that if you just do the same thing 7 days a week, work or hobbies or focus or discipline or whatever else you do, if you just do it 7 days a week, Monday, you take a little bit of the power away from Monday. Don't let it win. And on that note, since Monday is free at the Land of Boz, I'm going to cram in as much as possible without sacrificing quality. But one of the things I want to talk about in the pre-show show before we get into the main show is one of those phrases I hate. And it's that one about life's, whatever you're talking about is where they say something's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, for me, it's a career thing or whatever. And I don't know, this is just maybe therapy time for Jeff, but like, I argue that I would rather work my ass off and accomplish something versus being slow and steady and careful and regret not accomplishing something. Now, obviously, we can get deep in the weeds on the metaphor. If you're running, an ultra marathon, you're not going to sprint it because you have to pace yourself. However, I argue I would rather, I could change my mind in a couple years, but I'd rather be on my deathbed knowing I gave everything I had and not having regret. It's one of my tackiest tattoos, but one of my tattoos says no regret. And it was before the movie came out where that one dude spelled it no regrets or whatever. But I argue at the end of my day, when, not even the end of my life, but when my head hits my pillow, I want to know I did everything I could that day. Because to me, pacing myself, especially in an unknown business or world, like for Green Beret World, I knew the schedule, so to speak. I knew what we call the pipeline. I knew the timeline it should take. So I knew how to pace myself. When I got injuries, I knew how to kind of decide whether it was an injury I had to deal with or when I was going to muscle through. And a lot of them I just muscled through for the 2 years of training. But like for me, the way I look at the Hollywood thing, there's no formula. There's no rules. And people say, you could be here 10 years before you become an overnight success. And okay, well, I'm going to sprint all 10 years because I want to know I've done everything in my power every day. And obviously there's balance, and I hate that word too. But in the spirit of I'd rather sprint than pace myself on a marathon, I also know during this metaphorical sprint, rest is necessary and metaphorical hydration and water breaks will be needed. So I still know to be able to run a sprint, I still do know I do need to take care of myself and to maintain that intensity or that sprint. And sacrifices are going to be made. Time with friends, obviously anybody that's been with me for a hot minute, relationships will be going by the wayside. And I think that's a personal choice. The one regret I have is I don't do as well with my family. And my deep, at the end of the night, alone with my thoughts, prayers, and hopes is that this sprint will pay off and I will be able to do anything with my family at any time on any location on this planet at the drop of a hat. So I'm putting a lot of eggs in that basket. But I don't know. I think a lot of people need to kind of have a come to Jesus about that because I think I'm not judging people that believe that, whatever is a marathon, life's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm not judging you, but I think, I don't know. Pacing myself feels like I'm selling out or I'm quitting or I'm taking the easy way out. That could be wrong. That could set me up for failure. I don't know. But that was kind of my morning rant on that is I'd rather sprint than pace myself. And then now we will move into... So this brings us into journal time. And for those of you who are just listening on Mondays for the first time and you're kind of still test riding the Land of Boz, journal time is where I read to you my journal in the spirit of scuba diving where you plan your dive and you dive your plan. I'm using journaling in a hybrid of experiences I've got from Dr. Levi Harrison and Gary John Bishop's book on F Yourself. And I've created kind of a daily plan my day journaling, and here it is as follows. So my journal wasn't next to me. So today's journal, and for those of you who don't know, I focus on gratitude, assertions, and actions. I don't like affirmations because they affirm something, which means to me it's reactionary. It means you're reacting to something and you're not taking control of it. So I like the word assertions. You assert this. You're going to do it. This is fact. So today, gratitude, I'm thankful for my family. Assertion, I can take anything thrown at me. And action, I will have a day of focused work, no distractions, and work on my to-do list. So for those of you maybe implementing this in your own life, I know I've actually received a handful, 4 emails or messages about people trying to implement journaling into their day. It's nice. I write it down. I try to look at it my second part of the day, and I also look back on my week's journal entries to kind of see how I did, and always trying to bring me back, especially the gratitude one. When you're in your times of poo-poo lip and feeling bad for yourself, you kind of can maybe forget the stuff you should be grateful for. So when I do this first thing in the morning, I kind of have a clean palate. And so those are nice to always look back on when you're in a good headspace. So that is my daily journal. And I wish you could edit. Obviously, you can edit sound. But last week I said, how do you know where we're going if you don't know where we've been or something? I worded it very poorly. But I was referencing Today in History, a segment I do on the Land of Boz. How are we supposed to know where we're going if we don't know where we've come from? Thus, Today in History.
Extra, extra! Read all about it! Life story of Playboy Penny! Extra, extra!
October 15th, for today in present tense times, it is a Monday, but today on October 15th, I won't lie, kind of a boring day. This one I find weird. In 1860, an 11-year-old girl wrote the future U.S. President Abraham Lincoln suggesting he should grow a beard. He said it would be silly, but he did it anyway. So on this day in history, Abraham Lincoln stopped shaving. Interesting. And then a lot of blah, 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 blah. This can't be right. 1924, we were given the Statue of Liberty. It was that recent? Huh. Well, I could be wrong, but on this day in 1924, if I read that right, we were given the Statue of Liberty. Some births, some deaths. Nothing too motivating, so we'll just call it good on this day in history. Hopefully those were at least somewhat entertaining. Now, here's where the show gets meaty for those of you Monday-only listeners who should maybe conjure up 8 quarters and you can get 4 more days a week, 4 more hours worth of content. But if you're only one of those, this is where the show gets awesome, and I laugh really hard at it, for a game I'm now playing with you listeners called Rodeo Term or Sex Term. So how this is played, you probably guessed it. I'm going to say a word, a phrase, or some sort of combination of words, and I'm going to pause, and I'm going to give you, the listener, count of 3 or 4 or 5 to think to yourself or with your friends, is this a rodeo term or a sex term? If it's a rodeo term, I'll probably explain it. If it's a sex term, the site I'm looking at is quite explicit, and I try to keep this something maybe you can accidentally listen to in the car with your kids in the car. So the sex term, you'll just have to Google it. So here is rodeo term or sex term. Term number 1. The duct tape trick. Again, the duct tape trick. Rodeo term or sex term? It is a sex term, and I won't even remotely read that one out loud. So, number 2. All right, rodeo term or sex term? Sun fishing, one word. The word again is sun fishing. Rodeo term or sex term? Okay. It is a rodeo term, you dirty monkeys. Sun fishing is when a bucking horse twists his body in the shape of a crescent. All right, there you go. If anybody's been to rodeos or you've seen like a saddle bronc or God, what's the other one? Saddle bronc or bareback? What's the other one? When a horse bucks, they can make their bodies pretty effed up. So we will continue on. Okay. Number 3, rodeo term or sex term? Koosie. Rodeo term or sex term? Koosie. May I have it spelled, please? Yes, you may. Coosie. Rodeo term. It's a nickname for the cook, an Americanization of the Spanish word cocinero. I can't roll my R's. Cocinero, meaning cook. Also known as the cocinero. Can't say it, so. And let's do one more. Mother of God, these are horrendous. Oh, this is good. Okay. Rodeo term or sex term? Flooding the cave. Rodeo term or sex term? Flooding the cave. It is a pretty horrendous sex term, but it also, I likened it to a rodeo term that I just blanked on, so I was trying to pump fake you there. And let's do one more just for good measure. Oh, okay. Nice, this one. Rodeo term or sex term? Hogging. Can we have it spelled, please? Yes, you may. Hogging. Hogging. Rodeo term or sex term? It is a sex term, and I will not describe it on air. So that has been rodeo term or sex term. And for anybody who's followed me or been friends with me for any length of time, I started lifting my first weights in 1993. And I've been addicted, good, bad, or indifferent, into fitness ever since then. So here is a little bit of fitness chat.
Okay, I'm gonna get a Bowflex. I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna get some dumbbells.
You know you can't eat dumbbells, right?
So today I don't have some hard and fast science. Huge disclaimer right off the bat regarding fitness. But it was just something that actually occurred to me this morning in the gym regarding fitness. We constantly see science, or let's get rid of all the bro science crap, all the theories and gym bro, just all the crap that just seems too good to be true, or even the people on steroids and all that crap. But we see, for those of us that are doing our diligence about trying to educate ourselves via following the right people and learning from the right people and reading the right literature, it still seems like there's even people on two sides of multiple fences that have scientific backings, where one person will say one thing and another person will say another thing, and they both contradict each other, and they're from what you would essentially think of as reputable sources. So we're always faced with, well, this one thing says it'll break down muscle if I do this, but this other thing says it won't, or this thing will do stuff good with fat, this thing won't. And here's something I thought of today at the gym, and this is maybe the old man gone through it all phase, because I've not like steroids or anything, but I've done it all. I've tried every diet, I've tried every workout routine, I've tried every supplement. And the only thing that gave me no shit as seen on TV results was extreme consistency with my everything I did with fitness and my diet. It didn't matter what diet I was on or what training regimen I was doing. It was the fact I was doing it consistently, and that my diet, whatever it was spot on for the goal I was striving for. It didn't matter, and I'm not going to name names or systems or brands or anything like that, but it didn't matter which one I did. The thing that got me results was generically consistency in diet. I truly am starting to believe it wasn't what I did. Obviously, if you're getting down into bodybuilding where little percentages matter, or body weight sports where every pound or ounce matters, okay, that might actually make a difference where those little adjustments might be game changers for you. But for my goals, as I've always been interested in aesthetics, but I've also been interested in, some people hate the phrase functional fitness, especially in the military and as a firefighter. I cared about being able to be fit and functional in my careers, and aesthetics were a byproduct of that. And now that I'm playing around in Hollywood, aesthetics are certainly an issue. But also now that I'm 40, I don't need to weigh 285 pounds. You know, I'm happy with 245 pounds. I'd actually like to weigh less, to be honest with you, because I want to go halo jumping and skydiving, and most parachutes aren't rated for that kind of body weight. So the thing that there was not one system, like some of them are more conducive and plug-inable to my life, I will grant it that. But not one system made me go, holy crap, after 3 months of this is the thing that has changed my life. I've been able to take elements from various things or quote-unquote systems I've done that made me go, okay, I like this part of it. It makes it this better, because at the end of the day, it's all about consistency. And so the 6 meal a day thing, let's just be generic on that. That's been part of fitness and bodybuilding since the dawn of time. Getting rid of that via other techniques has been awesome for me. No difference in results. I could have done the 6 meal a day thing. I could do 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, 1 meal a day. And as long as I was consistent with it and the diet I was taking in was on top of a good consistent training regimen, results were the same. I could almost bet if anybody goes, here's what your diet's going to be and here's what workout you're going to do for this photo shoot in 3 months, you need to be shredded. I could probably do it on any diet or any routine that's not just some wazoo joke. And so I say all that, it might also be frustrating, but I also say that to give you hope in that like I said, I started when I was in junior high, getting obsessed with this world. And I'm a person that loves to know everything I can about everything. And it was overwhelming, and it is overwhelming, and it will always be overwhelming. But the thing I'm learning maybe it's a maturity thing or just from just literally trying almost everything out there in every magazine, is that the thing that I see, the through line, the common denominator in all these competing methodologies is the thing that makes them work is consistency in diet. And I guess generically speaking, everybody goes, well, what diet? And I say generically in retrospect, being in a caloric deficit. No matter what diet I was on, what macros I was eating, what type of diet I was eating, or how frequently I was eating, I was always, the common denominator was caloric deficit. And not one diet system was a game changer. I've had photo shoots that I was shredded in at various stages of my life and career, and where I could go back. I didn't log it literally for these purposes, but I could go back and cross-reference diet journals and photo shoot dates and cross-reference, and I know I've had equally similar results with completely different diet setups. And they were all, the only common denominator was a caloric deficit. So what I was saying is, yeah, this might be like, oh God, very discouraging, this thing I'm doing. Stick with whatever you're doing. I don't care what it is. If it's a caloric deficit, if you're trying to lose fat and maintain muscle, because there's a really fine sweet spot there to maintain and or especially build muscle and burn fat. But most people are trying to just be lean and maintain whatever muscle they have under there. Let's just keep it at that. Maintain your caloric deficit for you and stick with it. And not just sticking with the diet, stick with the exercise. All the other stuff is incidental rocket science. I'm almost certain from my experience, and then I've also been bedridden after a major surgery where all I did was diet. And I was consistent with it, and I was shredded. I lost muscle mass and overall weight because I was bedridden. And so obviously I wasn't stimulating muscles for growth, and I dropped my calories because to be in a caloric deficit, being bedridden, I was eating some low calories, but I was consistent, and I was shredded. So do that. Don't be discouraged. Stick with whatever you have. It's going to, some of this, if depending on where you're at in your fitness life, this is a life change for you. But once you get the pattern established, the thing that matters is consistency. So set yourself up for success. If for some freak reason a caloric deficit and eating 6 small meals a day works for you and you get the same results as if you ate 1 meal a day and you're still in a caloric deficit and you trained the same, fine. Do whatever the crap works for you. I think there's obviously healthier choices. Like if you can be in a caloric deficit eating donuts, that's probably not the ideal. It's on paper doable, I would imagine. But obviously make smart choices. But at the end of the day, whatever the hell works for you, that's what matters. Drop the science. Use the science to make educated decisions, but see where it implements for you. Because at the end of the day, we are not clones. Every one of us is different from the surface all the way down to the genetic chromosomal level, and and then you add in the human brain, and then emotions and all that crap. There's no way there's one thing that works for everybody or consistently, but there are a lot of things that might overlap and work better for you. So I don't know. Just take that for what it's worth. It was kind of a minor little epiphany day for me at the gym. So take that for what it's worth, and I hope that helps encourage you and not discourage you. And for you people listening to the Freebie Monday, kudos to you, because you're also going to get a new segment because the emails and the contact information has been piling up. So here is where I'm going to address things that are being emailed to me or whatever. I don't want to say fan mail because that seems really pompous, but you know, this is where people are getting a hold of me, and let's share it.
Ah! Oh my God! Here? I know him. I know him.
So this is really cool and ultimately flattering that people are reaching out and contacting me. And I won't use names, even though some of these posts are public. I don't want to just assume that. But the first message I got was regarding, just generically speaking, she said, I want to thank you and say I've been really enjoying the Land of Boz. She loves the nerd portion because she's a bit of a nerd herself. She's always has thoughts and stuff she wants to write down, but she's driving, so I'm glad she doesn't write them down. And she goes, I know I'm doing your best. You're doing your best to fix the audio equipment with your guests. And I just want to tell everybody that is fixed. You'll hear this later in the show with Jesse. It sounds great. So she says, I wonder how expensive the equipment is that you need. I mean, obviously it could be crazy expensive, but it doesn't matter because I fixed it. And I fixed it with good old-fashioned rigging. And lastly, to get to her question, she goes, is Jack Daniel's your favorite whiskey brand, or is there another one? Jack Daniel's is my favorite go-to brand that I can afford. I've had Johnny Walker Blue, and it tastes of unicorn blood, and it's amazing. So that answers that question, and I just really want to thank you for writing in. Another one I wanted to address, it was publicly, but it was regarding episode 8, Wednesday the 10th. A lot of the topics we're talking about hate and letting go and forgiveness and just the things we go through and how to deal with it. And this person wrote in, she's a patron, and it was really cool. She wrote a lot, and so I won't read the whole thing, but she purged a lot, and it was really cool because she goes, I loved this line. So expectations are premeditated resentments. I love that. Say that. Let me read that again to you. Expectations are premeditated resentments. And as I read that, is if you're in the wrong headspace or a toxic headspace or a negative headspace, if you set an expectation for something and you're in a negative space, you're setting it up for failures, essentially, and then you're going to resent the situation. And then this is funny because I'm the same way. She goes, lowering expectations and focusing on lowering expectations and focusing on them is the only thing I have control over, which is freedom. So that's interesting. Lowering expectations. So that was interesting. That's a really interesting topic. She also wrote me a really long email, and they were great. And I guess this is the summation of everything she wrote me is forgiveness is easier when you realize it's more toxic for said person holding it rather than the person who perpetuated the offense. So again, let me read these. She's very eloquently, she speaks or writes very eloquently. Forgiveness is easier when you realize it's more toxic for said person holding it rather than the person who perpetrated the offense against me. So I just love it. She goes, karma's real. Justice will always prevail. So that was good. I appreciate her writing in. That means a lot to me that somebody took the time to do that. And then thank you regarding the compliments and the appreciation of the nerd section, and then asking me about my whiskey. So I really appreciate people just doing that. That's really awesome. So keep it up. You're welcome to comment on the Patreon page. Not everybody wants to go to the website or download the app. So you're welcome to just email me, fans@jeffbosley.com, or like two of these people did, you can comment under the specific episode's feed itself on patreon.com/Jeff Bosley. Either way, with technology, I'll get the notification, I'll jot it down and reply back, or just share it with the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's pretty cool. Thanks. And now real quick, I just want to do a quick little I'm doing an awesome little thing with laser hit shooters coming up. They've provided me with a bunch of images from the new Call of Duty 4 Black Ops game, of which I don't want to say play a character, but it's a video game. But Nomad, me, 1-1. And he's sending me some pictures, and we're going to do a cool cross-promotion thing. They're not a sponsor of the show or anything. I just want to drop a name because they took time to print these pictures and mail them to me. That's cool. And we're all going to get some pictures, and I'm going to do some sort of contest if anybody has ideas or whatnot. But we're going to send out these. A lot of this is for kids. I actually know 2 people have contacted me to have me sign Nomad posters for their kids because they just find it to be such a cool character. So it's an honor, and just keep your eye out for that. If you're a Call of Duty fan, if you have kids or friends' kids that are Call of Duty fans, it's going to be a pretty cool event. So one way or another, I'll come up with something to get these out to you. And my breadwinner, if you will, my reason to exist career-wise and artistic and ways to be artistically fulfilled is I'm an actor. And I had somebody write in regarding a film I was in, and so we'll do a little blurb about my life as an actor.
Well, I'm an actor, right? So I got to keep my emotions right at the surface, you know?
Now, again, I don't want to be presumptuous and assume people want me to just name drop them. So the gentleman that wrote me, I believe, again, there's so many ways to get a hold of me, but one of the ways he got a hold of me and said he just wanted a little bit of backstory about a film I was in called Want versus Do. If you go to IMDb, I'm the only Jeff Bosley. There was a film I was in, I believe it's literally the first one on my IMDb credits, called Want versus Do. And it's either that one or one called Regret or one called Cash Mines. And the reason those 3 are on the forefront of my mind when it comes to the timeline is a group of us friends in Idaho started wanting to make movies. And this was before everybody could make movies on their cell phone. This is still in the time where everybody had to get 3 credit cards to save up for a good video camera. Editing equipment wasn't easy to get. It was still in before the cowboy days right now, where it's the Wild West of filmmaking. And this is basically anybody that kind of knows a little bit of acting world. 28 days, the very first 28 days, whatever it was called, 20 days later, I think, or 28 weeks, the first one, 28 days later. It had just been released, and it was shot on a consumer level camera called the Canon XL1, I believe. And we saved up, got that camera, a group of us, some way, shape, or form, and we started making movies. And we were just like kind of the way people are now, like some of the people I know in LA, making content, getting out there and all that. I did this, God, when was this? 2000? So, holy hell. That can't be right. Yeah, it was before I joined the Army. So I think it was 99 or 2000. We started making indie films. So yeah, I've been making indie films since 2000, for 18 years. And we started churning out scripts. Like whoever wrote a script, we would shoot it. We would cast it amongst our group, and then because a lot of us were theater students in the college, and we'd also cast other people, and we just worked as this big conglomerate, and we would make movies. And I can't write dialogue. I can write music videos. So my 2 products were a film called Regret and Want versus Do, which essentially they were just music videos. I worked with people to actually score the films, and I licensed their content on them. We did everything legit. And that was each film or each short we did was an exercise to practice something. Like one friend's film, he wrote something to work on green screen, because green screen was really hard back then. If you had like consumer level software. And so his film was to work on green screen. Another guy's film was to work on like lighting. Mine was to work on getting, copywriting with music and action scenes. And I wanted to do some stunts. And so we all would like have a couple things we'd want to accomplish for an ultimate, which we never got to. So we'd go through all in the films, they're called department heads. So that would include stuff like wardrobe, special effects. Everything that has to do with anything with a movie has a department. And we wanted to kind of test the waters with little baby films in each department. So focusing on each department for that little baby film for a major film that was written. We got a lot of it shot, and The footage is actually somewhere in El Segundo, California, in my storage unit, I believe. That someday may see the light of day. It was, I don't want to give anything away yet, but our film company, we actually became an LLC. It was called Small Potato Films. We were from Idaho. And we started shooting that. But to answer the question who wrote in, the film Want versus Do, that was mine. And it's a little film where a Mormon missionary in a minivan cuts off my character. I beat the crap out of him. Tables turn, he beats the crap out of me, and it's called Want versus Do. It's like what you do versus what, it's what you want to do versus what you do. Most of us, when we get cut off, don't pull over and go all Matrix fight on somebody. And so that was my contribution to our little working ethic. And some of the greatest memories I have were on those films because it was pure. We didn't have bills and kids and wives, and we had jobs because we were in college, but it was an interesting time where things were just a lot more fun and pure and less costly, metaphorically and literally. So that is what Want versus Do was, and that actually could be found on my Vimeo page, vimeo.com, Jeff Bosley. So if you ever want to check it out, it's there for you. So I really appreciate you writing in, buddy. That's really cool. You've been a massive supporter since day one, and I recognize your name, and I thank you for all of it. And I thank you, everybody else, for listening. And hopefully these little insights into my past that I just became aware of, that I've been doing for now 20 years, with an intermission of playing Green Beret and Firefighter, it's been eye-opening. So hope you enjoy. Thanks. And that brings us to the second half of the show, where I talk to one of my friends. Today's friend is Jesse Coyne. He was here last week. He's going to keep coming back in future weeks. Today, he and I discuss what it's like to be a supportive parent in a world of extreme sports and athletics. Also being cognizant of the new research with all the head trauma that's happening and concussions that we've probably been ignoring most of our life. And I'm not a parent. I do love kids, and I like taking care of them. I can't fathom what it's like to be a parent like Jesse and his wife, and trying to make the decisions on how to be supportive of your children, wanting to play some contact sports like football, and also being aware of the long-term effects of head trauma. And specifically for Jesse, who served in the military, he's had his bell rung many a time, and so he's intimately familiar with the potential fallout of not necessarily undiagnosed head trauma, but one too many. So here is an amazing conversation for you parents out there and you people interested in sports and sports science and head trauma and concussions. My conversation with Jesse.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
All right, and that friend coming back this week today is Jesse Coyne. He was here last week talking about all his passionate love of China, and now he will provide us with diversity that few people can actually offer. A little bit of parenting world. So welcome back, bud.
Thanks, homie. Good to be back.
Yeah. So actually, I didn't do this last time. Quick little your life in a nutshell. Who are you?
Who am I? That's a deep philosophical question.
Exactly. And answer it quickly.
I am prior military. Now I work. Actually, I got out of the Army, and now to my eternal shame, I took a contract with the Navy. But I work at a nuclear storage site, and I have a huge family. That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, you have to have been in infantry. Jesse was infantry and mechanized infantry, and that's probably the only thing that could prepare you for such fatherhood. I mean, that's all you did was you took care of privates. Now
yes.
You do the same thing.
And it's now the same thing. Only I'm not even getting paid for it.
All right. So, no, that's another conversation. So what do you have for us today, bud?
Today, I wanted to touch on something that has really been playing around in my head lately. So I've got 4 boys and a girl. All 4 of my boys are in different sports. My oldest and my youngest are in karate. My middle oldest is in dance, and my middle youngest is in hockey. And what we've had to do across everything except dance this year is we've had to get them baseline tested for concussions. And I hadn't quite wrapped my brain around how much concussions play a part in sports, and it's across the board. If
I could interject, they're actually establishing, kind of like we did in the military, a we know your bell's going to get rung.
Exactly. And I think,
they're
honestly,
literally giving it a foundation so they have something to compare it to if it happens.
yes, absolutely. And I
Holy
think, honestly,
crap.
that's where it
Wow.
came from is from the military.
Yeah. I mean, you had to do that in the Army, right?
Yep.
It was probably, well, for you, because you were in before me and longer than me. Your baseline was probably, if not you, you had friends or soldiers. Your baseline was already after your bell had been rung. So
yeah,
it was
I was blown
good,
up.
Too little, too late.
I was blown up 6 times before they took my baseline.
So like, we'll just subtract this by 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
That's
yeah.
exactly
So the
it.
military had that is when you enlist. They might even do it in basic for all we know now.
I don't know, but yeah, I know they do.
They do it when you're pre-bell ringing. So they
Mhm.
have a baseline because this is genius. It makes a lot of sense in sports.
It does. It does. The data I did, because I actually did a segment on this a few weeks ago, and the data on this, it blew my mind. Like, you expect stuff, football to have, a lot of concussions. And it does. It accounts for over half of all youth sports concussions come from football among boys.
Lord.
I know, right?
Wow.
And what I didn't figure is that soccer accounts for the most female concussions for girl sports.
Wow. It's funny because if my sister listened to this, she played goalkeeper in soccer and I played goalkeeper growing up. And both of us, my most massive injuries prior to joining the military were from soccer. One time she dove into a goalpost and she knocked herself the F out.
Man.
And but I never got my head, but I got a dude in high school kicked me, broke 3 of my ribs, which ruptured my spleen, gave me a heart contusion, and and that was in soccer. But yeah, I never would have guessed head injuries though, like head injuries.
It is. It's over half the girls' sports injuries are from soccer. But they studied, I want to say, 12 scholastic sports, and there were concussions in all of them. And
really,
it was an 11-year study, and over the 11 years, in all of them, the concussions went up.
Now, do you think, or did the data say, from your experience, or the data, is it because a lot of people don't know they had a concussion, or are these straight up legit, like the concussions you and I know about? Like we're like, oh, this dude's gone.
This was done in the late 90s, early 2000s, culminating just after the start of the Iraq War. And I want to say that this is the kind of information that led people to like, maybe we should consider this.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, one of the things that first popped in my head when you were talking about it, because I mentioned it yesterday on the show, was rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't realize, people just muscle through it. Football, they're like, well, we're wearing a helmet, so we'll headbutt some stuff and we're protected. But a lot of people probably, I'm sure the studies show this, and as times are changing, people probably are getting concussions and didn't, diagnostically were getting concussed, but actually didn't symptomatically realize they'd had one.
Yes.
So a lot of people probably didn't, probably people walked off the field just going, oh, your bell's been rung. But when you're wearing a helmet, you just assume, as children or cavemen, that your bell is rung, but your helmet protected you. But when you're like in rodeo, your bell's rung. It's, your bell was rung because you're unconscious.
Yes.
But even then they probably said, wake up. Okay, you're good.
Hey,
no
shake
concussion.
it off. You got another ride here in a few minutes.
Yeah. And that stuff doesn't happen anymore. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I actually just bought, because my son is in his growth spurt and he only outgrew the expensive parts of his hockey gear.
Oh.
So I just spent $140 on a new helmet for him.
Well, yeah. And next week when you get the new one, you'll be able to pawn this one off.
I know. Oh gosh, it hurts.
What's the place Played Against Sports? They have that there? Is that where that started?
They had some there.
Thing.
Yeah, it is. They had some at Played Against Sports, but I did my shopping online, and I was going to say, hey, if I can find this there, I'll pick it up. But they're actually improving helmet technology specifically to counteract concussions. Like my son's helmet last year, it's the padding on the inside that protects your grape.
Mm-hmm.
This year, there's actually liquid-filled pads inside, built into the helmet that dissipate the shock better.
Really? Good Lord. Yeah, 'cause I remember high school football, it was a little air cushy thing,
Right.
These things aren't made to protect your dome.
No, they're made to protect your skull from getting fractured, not to protect your brain from getting shaken around inside your head.
A running joke in the motorcycle world is you're not wearing your helmet, your helmet's wearing you. you know, like,
That's
you know,
exactly it.
I mean, yeah, that's obviously for like high speed trauma, but like, yeah, it's, at the end of the day, it's if you're wearing a crappy helmet, it's just for looks. So
Yeah.
what are the contact sports? Like, did you do any things like, as far as like, you said there's dance and like, obviously we have from those 11 years of studies, the obvious, like, you know, rodeo, or not maybe rodeo, but football, soccer's a surprise.
Soccer. The big two
like,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're probably
Yeah.
going where I was thinking.
Yeah. The big two for boys are football and lacrosse.
No kidding.
But, you know, baseball, softball. For girls, the big ones were soccer and volleyball, actually.
That's to me, and then because ignorance, or from the ignorant eye looking in, it's got to be. I think it's a shock because we associate, and I still do this my same, even though I have the education, is you associate concussion with somebody that got knocked the F out.
Right.
And you're like, the first instinct when you said these sports, I'm like, I've never seen anybody in volleyball, lacrosse, or whatever get knocked unconscious. And that's,
right.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, a huge misnomer with concussions is that
absolutely
you
yes.
could just have a minor headbutt, and that could technically have concussed your dome.
It's concussive effects. That's absolutely correct. And that's, I think, what led to this is more people noticing or redefining what constitutes a concussion.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
if you're conscious, okay, well, suck it up, Buttercup. You know, rub some.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I would obviously say the NFL is probably going a lot of like retroactive. Oh shit, we've been doing this wrong.
That's
for so long.
exactly right.
Because like these guys have this career, and I'm sure this is where you're going with this. Is like these guys have some 15-year career. They didn't get knocked. They can almost go, I never got knocked out once, so of course I never had a concussion. Dude dies. They do a brain autopsy, and they're like, oh, his brain was a mess.
Yeah, that's what they.
And they go, well, but he never got passed out.
Junior Seau committed suicide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and their dome, and then his brain. Literally the physical matter was a disaster.
Yeah, his brain was soup inside his skull, and that's what I think has led to a lot of the new regulations. Because you look at these people, and bro, I've been blown up 11 times in my Army career.
Oh my God,
it was a lot, dude. And
wow,
I know guys who've gotten blown up, you know, a handful of times, like once or twice, maybe.
Yeah.
And these dudes, they're starting to realize like the long-term effects of concussive injuries. These dudes are in their 30s getting Parkinson's.
Yeah, it's.
I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, exactly, and this could be the question of the day: is when you discharge from the military, is because like when the 5 seconds I was a firefighter, one of the things, like you pretty much I don't say it wasn't a waiver, but there's pretty much a. Here's what we're going to do for you when you get out of the fire service and you get lung cancer. It was just kind of like, here's the facts. Does the military pretty much like blanket even cover that? You know, because like we talk about, you know, not Agent Orange, good Lord, from the burn pits. There's all this retroactive stuff. Is there any sort of retroactive head injury stuff? Or are you out and you're just SOL?
I'm getting a little bit of disability for TBI, for traumatic brain injuries. But I mean, if I really wanted like long-term treatment care as opposed to just, you know, palliative care, I
fail to believe the military
will
hold their. I'm not going to hold my breath, good, right, wrong, or indifferent about the military going, all right, everybody. I mean, I probably could have technically got a concussion from airborne school. I mean,
I know I did, bro.
So everybody that realizes diagnostically they've probably on paper had a clinical concussion in the military came back and said, hey, I'd like to have treatment for this. The military would go bankrupt. I mean,
they would. Yeah.
It should be the right thing to do. And obviously then there'd be the people working the system, et cetera. But that'd be like every boxer that's still alive. Boxers, they got to be almost one of the prime people that
for a living,
fact.
You eat concussions.
Yeah, exactly. Those and MMA guys. And maybe boxers more, because MMA, at least they can not just focus on the dome.
Right.
But, yeah, I fail to believe like the whole, I just forgot the governing agency for boxing, whatever they are. I doubt anybody alive.
The athletic commissions.
They can go back and go, oh, well, yeah, diagnostically you've had concussions, but you're sorry, you're not, we're not liable anymore. And
Right.
wow. And you're going to put your kids through this.
Yeah.
No,
well,
so does the protective gear, is it combating it, or like in the NFL they got rid of helmet to helmet contact? I assume that's trickling down to kids football.
It is actually. I think it's mostly trickling up to the professional sports. Like it started at the grassroots level. Like I am so sick of seeing my son go unconscious when he goes nugget to nugget with somebody else, and that works its way up through the college system and eventually works its way up to the professional sports. Yeah.
So like, is the equipment combating it? I mean, is there did you see any studies showing?
There's been some studies, and the data is still coming out there. We're still trying to figure out, what, I think this is going to work if we build this into the helmet, and on the crash test dummies, it shows what we're looking for. They're still starting to put out there new materials, because it used to be like, you'd have the padding in your helmet was the same stuff you have in like a cheap cooler you get at a gas station.
Yeah, it was foam. I mean, my
foam.
Mitch helmet, I think my Mitch helmet in airborne school was just that stupid foam. I know in the military, correct me if I'm wrong, the helmet was the resistance was due to bullets hitting it. They could care less about the impact from your dome hitting the ground. I mean, it was like wearing a bulletproof armor plate on your head, and they go, "Hey, here's some foam padding to put between your head and this."
Yeah, that's to make it comfy, not to really protect you from anything, because this is designed to stop shrapnel, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They weren't made to prevent your skull.
Yeah, they were not made for impact resistance.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Interesting. So, as a parent, what?
The
great thing is as an individual, it's like, well, I'm willing to take these chances, all the way up from the boxing level to even the NFL guys are like, I love my sport, I love my game, but that's like a over 18 self-imposed choice.
Yes.
Now, kid that wants to do things, and the kids always, we've been them, the kids that think we know better than our parents, but you now know better than your children. What, I don't have kids, so how do you go, well, here's a sport that statistically could really damage your head, but you enjoy it.
Right. So
parenting 101 here.
So my wife and I had a talk about this because my kid's sister actually she was slotted for the U.S. Women's Olympic team as a goalkeeper for ice hockey.
Oh wow! And
she got she was hit by a car, unfortunately, and got a massive concussion. Cost her the opportunity, but it has affected her the rest of her life. And and so Laura and I are like, do we really? I mean, my son is passionate about this. He loves it. He's a great skater.
Yeah,
he's a great shooter. But is it worth it just for some fun? Because unless he's like scholarship level good, there's really not a lot of net benefit from this.
Yeah, this is fun and team sports, working well with others and all that crap. And it's not until college. Yeah, for sure. It's not until college and, career where you literally there's a cost benefit. Right now, like you said, at the end of the day, it is just for fun and lessons learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we had probably an hour-long sit-down conversation about this without the kids present. Mm-hmm. And so in our league, they require that you have a baseline test before you start the season. And
who pays for that? I assume that's out of pocket, right?
Yeah, that's on us.
It's kind of like a pre-sport physical. That's
correct. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Gotcha.
It's just an extra step in that, making sure you're healthy enough to play the sport.
Yeah.
But if you get your bell rung, you are done. You are out for the game. You can try again next week.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, is this this sounds jaded like I have kids, but I don't. So is this, so there's if you play for your school, most of the time the schools cover the physical, the thing
right.
School physicals are essentially a joke. They're you have a pulse and you're somewhat safe to play.
Yes.
So anything beyond that, extracurricular, not school related, obviously is coming out of your pocket. And that's also when you're buying a new helmet weekly. And then I assume the baseline concussion test is out of pocket. And I assume, let's say he gets his bell rung, to get the clearance That's also out of pocket, right? I mean, if it's extracurricular.
Yeah.
Or like if you have health insurance, etc. But it's still.
Yeah, I've got pretty good insurance through
yeah,
my company,
sure.
but at the same time, like,
Yeah, I can
then,
only imagine people, because Jesse won't toot his own horn more than he has to, but like Jesse's a very responsible, like fiscally normal, very good off dude as far as making good decisions. So like you take a parent that has a kid that's a little less better off in a less good situation, as poorly worded as that was. I can't imagine some parent go, or a single mom. Let's say, I know I have a single one, actually Alicia on this show. She's a single mom of like 3 kids in her brood, and let's say 2 of their kids get their bell rung, and she's got to pay out of pocket to get these. I'm sure head doctors aren't exactly something super cheap on an app,
right?
I mean, it's a potential downward spiral for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And then also in Jesse's defense, and a lot of things like Jesse is not one of the people that's going to Purellify his kids. Jesse's an old-fashioned parent where kids are going to have fun, get dirty, learn lessons and discipline and all that stuff. He's not going to wrap their life. He's not going to put Nerf foam on all the corners of the sharp objects of his house. He's going to, he's a good balance of protection and adventure. But I can't imagine. Okay, so continued. You and Laura sat down and had the conversation.
Yeah, we did, and so we can. I'm assuming it's just him getting cobwebs, but I'm good with him being out for the next week, and then we'll reassess.
You mean if he gets his bell rung.
If he gets his bell rung, get some cobwebs in there. If it happens again, or if he goes unconscious once, he's done. We're pulling him from the sport.
No kidding.
I have had enough concussions that I'm starting to realize the long-term effects of that. Sure. In terms of my memory, in terms of my cognitive abilities.
Yeah,
it's just,
sure.
I cannot memorize people's names like I used to. I can't memorize numbers like I used to.
Yeah. And his head's still developing. I mean, you're more or less.
Exactly.
There's a lot of crap that could still go wrong.
Exactly right. And that's honestly, it's not worth it to me.
Yeah.
I want him to have fun, and I want him to toughen up. And fortunately, he's 9, so they're not doing full contact hits. They're learning to skate, learning to pass, learning to shoot.
Yeah.
So the odds of him getting a concussion, and this is honestly what we're banking on right now, is the odds of him getting a concussion are still relatively low vis-a-vis like high school and college and professional level sports.
Yeah.
So we'll let him keep playing, and we'll keep an eye on him. My other 2 boys in karate, I'm actually picking them up helmets next month, so they'll be able to start sparring. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's what worries me, because I did competitive taekwondo for years, and I mean,
these are sports where the job is to
contact the sport.
People. Yeah. I mean, even football, it's not like it is a major part of it, but the job isn't to hit them in the head or get points, and
right.
And it's literally a fighting sport.
It is, and they're very good at it, and I like the discipline it gives them, and I like the self-defense techniques that it gives them.
Oh, absolutely.
I like the self-confidence that it gives them, but again, going back to that, like they're gonna if you want to actually apply these techniques, you have to spar, and and it concerns me. They've come out in the last couple of years with really advanced new. It's almost like a gel foam helmet for boxers in training and for martial arts.
Yeah, I've seen it where they use it. I think they use it on. It's the same. I think it's the same technology. Like I know, like I have it in my motorcycle jackets, and like stuntmen use it, where it's pliable until it's impacted, and it becomes like almost like. It might be slightly different, but I think it all kind of becomes like rock solid or something. It's like it's kind of almost science fiction-y.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool stuff. Expensive as hell.
Oh yeah.
But my kids' brains are worth it.
For sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I say this, like my closest thing that I come to in silly Hollywood of head injuries is falling off my motorcycle, which is all self-imposed, and Yeah, you
Right.
sit there and you're like, the minute you go, oh, do I really? I'm like, what the crap am I thinking? Of course I want this patty. Yeah. But then
Yes.
you have brood in your own offspring. Yeah, I mean there's no there's like no right answer, because I mean at least you guys have like, and I wouldn't expect any less of you and Laura, like to have, here are the parameters, here's our cutoff point, and here's our adapt point, and
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's a good lesson for a lot of people. If I guess for the parents that do listen, is have a, I guess, stage elements of retreat. Whether then that's a really good way to look at it.
Right.
And then God help you when he's 18.
Yeah, about that. That's
a whole nother show.
Yeah, that's the reason I don't drink, because I would eventually start thinking about that, and I would drink myself to death. But yeah, I think what you touched on, something that's important there, is that being reactive to this stuff, it puts you at a really bad disadvantage, especially as being a parent, because your kids want to keep doing this stuff. Like, I'm fine. I feel fine. I'm good. I puked once. I was unconscious for a second. Let me get back in the game.
Yeah.
And trying to convince them after that, it's really difficult.
Oh, so like he even knows, so proactively, he even knows this is what's going to happen.
Absolutely. As soon as we established a baseline that we both agreed with, we made him aware, like, hey, Bubba, I know you love the sport, but
gotcha.
If this happens, you're done, and you're going to have to find a different sport.
Yeah.
You know?
And then that's good, especially just a child. I mean, instantly it's going to be a little tiffle, because it's, a parent's telling a kid they can't do anything, but it's nice if he's, just, I would say, like in anything in this world as adults, if you converse before it happens, and this is probably for sure like a military thing, you do it, you plan ahead when it's nice, calm, cool, and collected. When it happens, it seems less reactionary and less panicky, and it'll set yourself
I'm just
up
saying, bro, it's
slightly,
like, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark.
Oh, there's the bumper sticker. Good point. I like how somehow we
before
circled
things go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Well, God, I'm in awe of this. Like, I got chills multiple times thinking about this, and how many times I can't. I mean, you and I don't even think you guys have physically met my best friend Jared. You guys have had very similar careers, and I know he's I don't know if he's up to 11, but I mean, there wasn't a deployment he told me about where he didn't get his bell rung or knocked to the F out or blown up, and sadly, and I think this is the military or a high level anything. So the NFL, it took dudes in the NFL getting Parkinson's and dying and all that to create an awareness that trickles, one way and the other way. Military, it took dudes getting their bell rung to change, or even dying to change, like EMS practices in the civilian world. Sadly, it takes these absurd extremes to create it, but at least the dialogue is starting. But I still can't fathom being a parent right now.
yeah. Honestly, that I think now that we're starting to take it more seriously and starting to get treatment, like, instantly. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what this does to the veteran suicide numbers and how we can bring those down, because they're starting to attribute a lot of that to concussive injuries, to blast injuries.
Yeah, I would. That was actually an interesting point I was going to go at. Is there's this, everybody thinks these head injuries are isolated, but then like Seo, there's a perfect example. Is it might have not been one traumatic event. That's the thing, is if you spend a career doing it, or one good bell ringing, your brain, if anybody's actually done any sort of anatomy, physiology, and dissection, that thing is a fragile little piece of fruit, and it's just suspended in like a little bit of juice that allows a very little tolerance, and then you just set that up for failure and all sorts of traumas. I mean, I know you do. I'm very fortunate. My career was a little unique, but I can actually, the minute you said that, I can attribute it to one SF dude where I know it's from head injuries. I know it's from, and he's just not right. And I can't fathom, and this is a little dark, I guess, but you and I were just talking before we hit record about back injuries and back pain.
Right.
And I was actually just talking to a doctor yesterday about how there are some injuries, and I'm just talking physical, not head injuries, where it's the inescapability of it is like depressing, and not like in a suicide watch way, but like in a, God, what I would give to have my back just feel better, and it feels kind of depressing, strong, but it feels like, oh God, there's no hope for this injury. and you learn to deal with it because it's just a physical ailment at the end of the day. But imagine that with your dome, like your head injuries and all that. I can only, not like this is Jeff and Jesse you're on need to be worried about, but like if you're not right in the head and you see no sight, I can only, and then if you're chemically imbalanced due to whatever's going wrong in your head.
Bingo.
I'm not saying I understand suicide, but I can understand with all those elements going against each other in this perfect trifecta of poor existence where that feels like the way out.
Yeah.
It's a sick, and I'm surprised it hasn't happened to more NFL people or even WWF people or,
right.
I mean, or even boxers. But then here's the other argument going back to your sports part of this is look at all the bad stories you hear about, like these elite fighters or NFL guys beating the crap out of women and making all these poor decisions and all these things that seem out of character because
exactly
they're bred as these Spartans getting their heads smashed all the time. Nothing's functioning anymore. It's just not firing the same.
Right, you're not making the same decisions
fallout
you
on
would.
this. Yeah, the fallout on head injuries could be not fallout, but the umbrella of stuff that actually could have people go, oh wait, that's why these boxers tend to beat women, and that doesn't make sense, like But that might be the common denominator that a lot of us aren't even looking at, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't. That would not surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So, wow.
Now that I've thoroughly depressed your audience.
No, I was going to say, I can't remember. I don't know if this will be Monday or Tuesday's show. So good way to kick off the week. No, I dig this. This is good. I think this is something I'm not, I don't represent most of the people that listen to me or follow me because most people at my age have kids. So this is awesome. And I as you know, I love kids and my sister and my friends. I hang out with people's kids all the time. And this is just something when you brought it up in a text, it was like, well, duh, that's a genius point. I wouldn't thought of. But at the same time, there are days where I'm like, I'm glad I don't have to think of that because I would be you. I would be like, yeah, Lord. At least you didn't have to learn the hard way because I don't know about you, but I growing up, the oldest child, they're like, oh, Jeff, he hit his head a lot. Okay, we're going to watch Kim a little better this time around.
Yeah.
Child number 2 and 3 gets a little bit better of an existence as the parents work their way through it.
But
you haven't had most of your kids. Yeah, you haven't had a lot of your kids about the same time. So
yeah, we kind of belt fed those.
Yeah, your learning curve has to be like the next day.
Yeah, it's not a learning curve for us as much as it is like a learning cliff. It's just flat and then straight vertical.
Well, badass. Anything you want to touch on that before I do the?
No, but I think we're good.
No, thank you. Tell us all your other stuff. Like I know you have your YouTube show with you and the
right.
Jarhead.
Yeah, we do the Joe and the Jarhead. It's twice weekly. We're trying to get the legal aspect of it worked out so we can get on Patreon as well and
nice
work with that. But it's just me and a Marine Corps buddy of mine making fun of each other and talking about the stories that the mainstream media just never deems worthy of coverage.
Yeah, and like I said on the last time we had Jesse on, like, if you're ever curious, it is a good place to go to because I, as probably a good representative of your average American, avoid media, and
yes,
it's might as well get the news from two dudes that are gonna, I would say, give it pretty unbiased and also give it in a very, taking a very, very educated infantry officer and any Marine. Sorry, buddy. You're going to get a very diverse perspective. So
good times.
Cool. Thanks, Jesse. I really appreciate it. Tell
thank
the
you,
whole
homie.
family hi.
I shall do so.
Godspeed, and hopefully everything is from the neck down.
Yes,
all
sir.
the future injuries. All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
I absolutely love talking to that dude. You will never meet a more diverse and funny and intelligent guy. Actually, all my friends are that way. Well, they're not all guys, but you get the point. I love listening to that guy. It's awesome to have him on for some variety in my life. So, Jesse, thank you. My best to you and your family, and Godspeed being a parent. So that concludes today, Monday. Hopefully, I gave you a little bit of a flashlight at the end of your tunnel of Monday blah, And otherwise, I will see you back here Tuesday. It's going to be an awesome show. It's an awesome week. I really appreciate you all listening. Today was free, and hopefully it gave you a little bit of fix. This is the land of Boz. I'm giving you a free hit of heroin. And then Tuesday through Friday are the ones you got to go sign up for. But you can link it to your podcast app. No muss, no fuss. And then continue on with your life. And we all win and we're all happy. So in the meantime, thank you for your patronage. Thank you, Jesse. Actually, you just texted me. And everyone have a great day, great week. And I will see you back here tomorrow. Go forth, conquer, kick ass, be relentless. Adios.